So I was in Walmart the other day, right? And I was getting a few items for Christmas. And as I went up to the front line and was about to check out my items, I just happened to see this young couple in front of me. They was probably in their mid-20s, dressed nicely, like there's probably middle class or they had good jobs. And right before they went to check out their items, I can see the guy look down at his phone and just kind of shake his head. And I already knew what that meant because I was just like him in the past. But I can also hear him say, man, I can't believe that I make 70K a year and I'm always still broke. And what was even worse is his girl kind of looked over him and laughed. And they both laughed at each other, but you can see that it wasn't really funny to them. And it wasn't funny to me either, because in the past, I've been in that same situation over and over, where I would get paid on Friday, and by Wednesday, I would already be looking towards the end of the month when I'm going to get paid again. And a lot of people live like this way. No matter if you make 50, 60, 70K, and sometimes even 100K, you find yourself barely having extra money at the end of the month, even though you make good money. So the main question of this video is, why do a lot of us still feel broke even though we make good money or what we feel like is good money? Let me start by saying this. No, it's not because you're lazy. And no, it's not because you don't make enough money or you're being undervalued. It goes much deeper than that. A lot of times it has to do with your emotional intelligence and the lack of financial systems that we have in place for ourselves. Let's dive a little deeper into this conversation and let's identify some of the reasons that we might be feeling broke even though we make good money and how we can fix that issue. When most people think about being broke, they focus primarily on three things. First, they say that they don't make enough money or their income is too low. Second, they like to blame it on the environment. They say things like prices are just getting ridiculously high, inflation is holding me back, and I just don't have enough hours in the day to work the amount of time I would need to make good money. And thirdly, they like to blame the people around them. They like to say, man, such and such always needs my help, so I'm constantly giving money out. Or, man, only if my family could help me here a little more, I would have more money for myself to spend. But those aren't the real reasons why people are broke. When most people try to identify why they're constantly broke, they normally blame it on things like low income or not having enough hours in the day to make the amount of money that they would need to live, or they also start to blame it on friends and family, saying they constantly have to support the people around them. But that's not the reason why you're broke. The real reason why many people are broke is habits. They lack good habits and systems, and they don't have them in place in order to be successful. The second reason is life pressures. Life is going to pressure you in a variety of ways, and you have to have a plan on what to do when you face those pressures. And the third reason is people lack the ability to adjust when the environment around them changes, because things are going to constantly get more expensive. You're always going to run into life problems, and people just lack that capacity to make changes whenever those problems come. But honestly, one of the biggest things that I see that cause people to be broke is life creep. Because I see this all the time. As soon as one of my friends or family members get a raise at work, or they find themselves coming into some extra money, the first thing they go and do is buy more stuff. Instead of sticking to the plan that they already had, and instead of staying at the lifestyle that they were already in, they go and say, man, I finally got a raise. I'm about to get that new car that I always wanted. Or, man, I really hate my wardrobe. I think that I can finally afford to buy newer, nicer clothes. They always let that life creep start to come and eat away at that new income and eat away at that new income until they find themselves spending way more money than they ever had. And that raise doesn't even feel like a raise because they're spending more money. But the biggest problem with life creep is you always make adjustments way too fast, right? For example, I always wanted a RAV4. Like I wanted it for the longest amount of time. And I told myself the next time I get a raise, I'm going to buy that new car. And after a year of having that RAV4, I realized that it gets me from point A to point B, just like that old Prius that I had. It still has the same Bluetooth connections. I listen to the music the same way in my RAV4 that I listen to in my Prius. But I'm paying double the amount that I had to pay for that old car as I pay for my car now. And to be real with you, I look back and I think, man, I really wished I wouldn't even upgraded because I could have been saving that money and making that money work for me, and I would have had so much more income that I could have been using for things that I wanted to do. But life creep tapped me on the shoulders and it got me. So make sure that whenever you come into more money or you get a raise, go make a plan on how you want to spend that money. Second biggest problem that we see is identity spending. And that's when you spend the amount of money to try to match the person that you want to be, right? For example, you might see yourself as one of the best friends in your friend group. So what you're gonna do, anytime your friend calls you and say, hey, can I borrow $50? You're gonna say, oh, no problem. Or anytime you take your friends out to lunch, you might end up being the one to pay because you feel like good friends pay for your other friend's dinner, or good friends lend out money when your friends are in need. Another example is seeing yourself as one of the greatest parents ever, right? And you start to spend money that matches what people perceive as a great parent. So you may think your kid needs the newest and latest shoes. You may also think that they need the newest, coolest toy. But what they really need is just time with their parents and quality time outside at a park or just watching a movie at home. You don't necessarily have to spend that money to identify as a good parent. You can do quality life things and your children are going to perceive you in the same way. We all have to recognize that our identity isn't based off the amount of money that we spend, but how disciplined we are in order to achieve that image for ourselves. So if you see yourself as the best IT person in your profession, you're the best because you're disciplined enough to become the best every day, not because you spent $2,000 on a certificate. Make sure you keep that in mind. The third trap that we find ourselves falling into is emotional spending. And the perfect example of this is a lot of people start to feel stressed out after working all those hours, and at the end of the week, the first thing they say is, I could really go for a massage. So you go and spend $100 on a massage to make yourself feel less stressed. And then after that, you might think, I know what else to help me become less stressed. A nice meal. So you might go and take yourself, I don't know, to Outback and get a nice steak. And then after that, you might say, you know the last thing that can make me feel less stressed? A new outfit. And you go to the mall and buy yourself a new outfit. And after all of that, you know what? You're still stressed out because spending money isn't going to reduce the amount of stress that you feel. If anything, for a lot of people, spending money is going to cause more stress because at the end of the month, when you get that credit card bill and you see that you had massages, fancy dinners, new clothes, it's going to stress you out because you know you have to pay all of that money back. What really needs to happen is you can identify those stressors and find things that you know would help you avoid becoming stressed in the first place, right? If that's taking on less work, or if that's not picking up a phone call from somebody that you know is going to stress you out, do those things so you can avoid emotional spending. The fourth problem is people lack financial systems. They don't have a plan or a job for their money before their money hits the bank account. Your money needs to already have a place to go way before you get paid, right? So you should have accounts set up for your retirement, accounts set up for your kids' educational fund, even accounts set up for fun money for whenever you want to go out with your friends to the movies or just to go grab something to eat. All of your money should always have jobs and have a bucket that they belong to. Because if they don't, then every single one of your dollars are free agents and they can run off and do whatever it is that they want to do. They can go and be spent on coffee, or they can go and be spent on some random pair of shoes that you never thought that you was going to get, and then you find yourself blowing through money way faster than you ever should. So make sure you're setting up financial systems. And the fifth and final reason is the economy is set up against you, right? And I know that sounds weird, but every single year inflation goes up, the cost of groceries goes up, the cost of clothes goes up. Every single thing that you see around you is starting to go up and up and up. And guess what? It's never coming back down. But you have to be able to adjust and adapt to your environment around you to make sure that you are succeeding in every point in life that you're in. So in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, you need to be constantly readjusting your financial plans to match the environment around you, because things aren't going to stay stagnant just because you want them to. So now that we talked about all the things that can potentially cause you to be feeling broke at the end of the week, let's talk about a few things that you can change to fix your bad habits and start making and keeping the amount of money that you want to keep at the end of the week. The first thing is freeze lifestyle creep. Please don't run and buy new things as soon as you get a raise. When you get that extra income, you go and readjust your plan so that you're going to be saving some money. And yes, you can do some fun things and treat yourself every now and again, but plan that into your budget. Don't let lifestyle creep cause you to spend money that you think you have, but you really don't. Number 2, automate everything, right? Your money should already be assigned a place to go way before you ever get paid. Take willpower out of the equation. You don't even want to have to ask yourself, do I deserve this? Because you can go and look at your fund savings account and say, okay, I know I have $300 in here for the month. That's the amount of money I have to spend. Automate everything and make sure all your money has a place to go before it ever hits your bank account. Next, I want you to track your emotional triggers, right? Understand what makes you sad. Understand what stresses you out. And when you identify that these things are about to happen, have coping mechanisms in order to make yourself feel better. Whether that's taking a walk, or for myself, I like to go to the gym whenever I'm stressed out in order to make myself feel better. But understand your emotional triggers and have plans to counteract those emotional triggers so you don't find yourself spending money in order to make yourself feel better. The final tip that I want to give is build your identity based off discipline and not spending money, right? Whoever you identify as, whether that's the best father, the best friend, the best person in your work group, that's all based off the discipline that you've been given your entire life. It's never been about spending money. It's always been about the fact that you're willing to go above and beyond. And that's discipline, not the amount of money that you can spend. So the truth is, the reason we're feeling broke at the end of the week is because we really lack structure in our lives. And the only thing that can fix that is going and changing the systems that we've incorporated in our life and making sure that we're disciplined in those systems. And if you start to do those things, you're going to see a change quickly, not only in yourself, but also in your bank account. And if you have more tips that can help us become a little more financially savvy, put that down in the comment. And if you like videos like this, make sure you watch this one as well.